Okay, imagine this. A video game just explodes onto the scene. I mean, it becomes the fastest selling title ever from a super well-known studio, gets universal acclaim, wins a ton of Game of the Year awards.
Right, already sounds like a massive hit.
Exactly. But now imagine that same game has a world where humans, like us, humans, are the monsters, the bad guys.
Whoa, okay. Humans as the monsters.
Yeah. So what kind of ambition, what kind of vision, what kind of deep philosophical thinking does it take to even attempt that, let alone pull it off so successfully?
It's a really fascinating setup, isn't it? It's not just about the sales or the awards, as impressive as they are.
Yeah.
It feels like the game is deliberately poking at things, challenging how we usually see fantasy, and maybe even how we see ourselves.
Totally. It sounds like it's designed to make you stop and think, maybe question things a bit, and really feel this inverted reality they've built.
Yeah, feel the weight of it.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. Our mission is to unpack all these layers of metaphor, ReFantazio. It's a 2024 RPG from Atlus' Studio Zero.
The Persona guys, basically. Or, well, the team behind it.
Right. We wanted to explore how it was made, the story they're telling, the really complex philosophical ideas woven into it, and figure out why it hit such a nerve with players and critics.
And how it manages to use this fantasy world to reflect our own reality back at us, which sounds like a core part of its appeal. It definitely sparks curiosity.
It does, and it kind of raises the stakes, not just for the characters in the game, but maybe even for you listening right now.
So, to guide us through this, we've got some great sources. There's an exclusive interview with the composer, Shoji Meguro.
Oh, fantastic. His music is always iconic.
Absolutely. And there's really interesting Reddit analysis looking at the game's early concepts, plus a personal reflection from someone who played the game differently, like slower.
That sounds intriguing, a different way to play.
Yeah, and of course we've got the comprehensive Wikipedia entry for metaphor, ReFantazio, to fill in the gaps. It's a lot to work with, shows how much depth there is.
Okay, let's get into this grand vision. The story of Metaphor really kicks off with a pretty bold move from a legendary director. We're talking Katsura Hashino.
The mind behind Persona 3, 4, and 5. Huge games.
Exactly. He basically defined modern RPGs for a lot of people. And he decided to step away from Persona, that massive franchise. Back in 2016, he started up Studio Zero within Atlus.
Which wasn't just like moving offices, right? This was a statement.
For sure. It was a clear signal of a shift in creative direction, apparently driven by his personal desire to explore other projects after Persona 5 just blew up.
I mean, talk about a gamble. You're the director of one of the most successful, beloved RPG series globally with this incredibly dedicated fan base.
Yeah, almost cult-like.
Right. And you decide to leave that comfort zone, that guaranteed success, to start something totally new from scratch. That takes guts.
It really speaks to some deep creative restlessness, doesn't it? Like a need to do something different, even if it means risking failure.
Definitely. And Atlus themselves said the whole point of Studio Zero was to aim even higher, to create brand new IPs. Not just another Persona spin-off, but something fundamentally different. A big leap from their usual urban fantasy into, well, high fantasy.
And that just makes you wonder, what drives someone at the absolute peak of their game to do that? What was this something new they were chasing? Especially in fantasy, a genre that's already packed with games.
Yeah, it's saturated.
So the move itself just immediately raises the stakes. Like, what incredible idea did they have that justified leaving Persona behind?
It suggests they felt they had a story to tell, or maybe a gameplay concept that just wouldn't fit in the Persona box. It had to be its own thing, a total reinvention.
And Hashino didn't go it alone. He brought key people with him, didn't he? Like indispensable members from the Persona team.
Oh yeah. Character artist Shigenori Sojima and composer Shoji Meguro. These guys basically crafted the entire aesthetic of modern Persona.
Their style is so distinctive.
Absolutely. And them joining Studio Zero showed it was this shared mission, this desire to push boundaries together.
Sojima's involvement is fascinating. His art is so tied to that sleek, urban, almost fashion-forward look of Persona.
Exactly. So for him, jumping into a medieval fantasy setting, that's a huge shift. He apparently talked about the challenge, asking, what exactly is fantasy and how can we bring a meaningful fantasy game into this world?
Meaningful fantasy. That's interesting, not just swords and dragons.
Right. Think about it. He had to invent a whole new visual language. What does his version of fantasy look like? How do you make it feel Atlus, but also completely new and appropriate for this different world? It It wasn't just drawing new characters, it was world building through art.
Trying to find those meaningful aspects within a fantasy context.
Yeah, what deeper human stuff could they explore there? It's a fascinating question for artists known for urban settings.
So you'd think a totally new IP, especially one that's such a big change, might take a while to find an audience, right?
Usually, yeah. Building buzz takes time.
But Metaphor, it just exploded. 1 million copies sold on release day.
Wow.
Making it Atlus's fastest-selling game ever. And it quickly passed 2 million worldwide sales soon after. That's just astronomical for a brand new thing.
That's incredible momentum right out of the gate. Shows massive anticipation or just nailing it immediately.
And the critics loved it too. Universal acclaim on Metacritic, like 92, 94 scores. OpenCritic had it at 98% recommended.
Those are stellar numbers.
But it wasn't just scores, it won actual awards. Multiple Game of the Year awards from big names like IGN, GameSpot. Plus, the Game Awards gave it Best Narrative, Best Art Direction, Best RPG.
Okay, so sweeping the board, basically. That kind of validation for a new IP is super rare.
Right. But here's where it gets interesting. Even with all that universal praise, some critics still pointed things out, like familiar persona elements creeping in.
Like maybe too familiar for some?
Yeah, or things like dungeon repetition, maybe the story holding your hand a bit too much sometimes. So how does a game win Best Narrative and Best Art Direction awards that praise its uniqueness but also get critiqued for leaning on its past or having repetitive bits?
That's a really good point. It creates this tension, doesn't it? How can it be both universally acclaimed and have these recurring criticisms?
It makes you want to dig deeper, like what makes it truly unique, and maybe why didn't those familiar elements bother most people, or did they?
Or maybe those familiar elements were actually part of the appeal, like easing players into the newer stuff. It forces us to look closer at what worked and what maybe felt a bit derivative to some.
Well, one thing that definitely worked almost undeniably is the music. Shoji Meguro, we mentioned him.
The legend.
He's known for that persona sound, right? That cool urban mix of acid jazz, funk, J-pop.
Instantly recognizable.
But for Metaphor, he shifted gears completely. Embraced this grand, almost legendary feeling of a high fantasy epic. It sounds like a massive change in approach.
It really was. He actually said he had to relearn some composition and musical theory because this was so orchestral, so different from the digital stuff he was used to. That's serious commitment.
Wow. Relearning his craft, basically.
And the result is so distinct, especially that main battle theme. People called it an earworm, commanding and eccentric, with this very unique, methodical, almost rap-like chanting. It just grabs you.
The chanting. Okay, this is where it gets super interesting for me. Meguro actually researched and found a specific monk, Kisuke Honryo.
A real monk.
Yeah. Apparently his voice was the key element. And the chanting isn't just random syllables, it's in an original language with inspirations of Esperanto.
Esperanto. Okay, why Esperanto? That seems like a very specific choice.
Right. And Meguro said the tricky part was getting Honryo's-san to keep up that fast rhythm while reading these totally new phonetic sounds. But the Esperanto connection.
Yeah.
That's the meaningful part.
It absolutely is. Because Esperanto wasn't just some linguistic experiment. It was created by L.L. Zamenhof back in the late 1800s. He was a Jewish doctor in Russian-occupied Poland.
Okay.
And he lived in this town that was just torn apart by ethnic and linguistic divisions. Russians, Poles, Germans, Jews, all seeing each other as enemies, he said. His whole motivation was to create a neutral, simple language. So in his words, all people were brothers. A tool to bridge those exact kinds of divides.
Wow, so putting a language designed to overcome ethnic conflict into the battle music.
Exactly. It's not just cool-sounding chanting. It directly connects the game's combat, the conflict itself, to the big themes of tribal discrimination and the struggle for unity within Euchronia.
So while you're fighting, you're subconsciously hearing this message about bridging gaps, about potential unity.
Yeah.
That's incredibly layered.
It really is. It turns every battle into a kind of commentary on the world's problems. Meguro and Hoshino clearly worked super closely on this.
Yeah.
Meguro talked about building the soundtrack beat by beat and battle by battle, calling it both a science and an art form.
A science and an art.
Yeah. The music ramps up in fights, gets quiet and somber in cutscenes, and really crafts the atmosphere for every single place. Cities, roads, even that Gauntlet Runner travel thing. Each city having its own theme really drives that home.
So the music is way more than just background. It's actively shaping your experience, your emotional connection to the world and its conflicts. It's raising the stakes emotionally.
Totally. It pulls you in deeper, makes you feel the weight of the divisions and the hope for unity. It's doing real narrative work through sound.
Okay, so beyond the sound, the gameplay itself seems to act like a mirror too, reflecting life choices in clever ways. If you've played Persona, you'll spot familiar things, right? Like the day-night cycle, weather.
Yeah, the social sim stuff is definitely there.
But Metaphor puts its own spin on it, like the follower system. It's not really about romance like in Persona, is it?
Not primarily, no. It's more about building bonds to get public support, like political favor for the royal tournament. It shifts the focus from purely personal relationships to building a coalition, gaining influence, community strength over individual romance.
Which fits the whole kingdom election plot. And instead of social stats, you have these royal virtues.
Right. Courage, wisdom, tolerance, eloquence, imagination. These affect who you can bond with, what quests you unlock. And the personas are different too. They're called archetypes.
And they're not just summons. They're described as manifestations of insecurity or souls of old heroes.
Yeah, it's pretty intriguing. They function like a job system, essentially.
Yeah.
Each archetype has unique skills. They evolve. You can even combine them for synthesis skills.
Combining them. Okay, that sounds flexible.
Very. And here's a key difference from Persona. All your party members can use multiple archetypes and swap between them, not just the main character.
Oh, wow. So everyone is versatile.
Exactly. It opens up huge strategic possibilities. And you get new archetypes by bonding with those followers. So your social game directly fuels your combat power and flexibility. It links everything together: social interaction, political gain, character progression.
So every chat you have isn't just flavor text, it's potentially making you stronger or more influential in the tournament. That definitely raises the stakes for just talking to people.
Totally. Your social capital translates directly into political and combat power.
Yeah.
And the battle system itself sounds like a mix. Turn-based, but with real-time stuff.
Yeah, it blends them. You still hit weaknesses for extra turns, classic Atlus, but you can also, like, stun enemies on the field before the battle starts to get an edge.
Oh, rewarding preparation.
Right. And you can restart battles, swap party members mid-fight, or just run away. Lots of tactical options. So how do these slightly familiar but definitely different systems create a unique feel? It seems focused on that collective strength idea.
I think it fundamentally changes why you're doing things. It's less about optimizing one character and more about building a movement, almost. Your personal power is tied to your ability to lead and inspire others. Even stunning enemies feels like managing the crowd. you know? A metaphor for winning public opinion.
Yeah, crowd control.
It makes every choice, social or tactical, feel like it ripples outwards, affecting not just you, but the whole kingdom's future, potentially.
Now, the thing that apparently ties all this together, the real core mechanic, according to one source, is the time management. The linchpin.
The deadlines.
Yeah.
Classic Atlus pressure.
Exactly. The main plot has these deadlines limiting how many days you have for everything else, side quests, dungeon crawling, and building those royal virtues.
So you're constantly making choices. Do I grind for stats? Do I chase that side story for a new archetype or a discount? Do I focus on virtues for future quests? It creates that constant low-level stress.
It does. But here's the clever part, what the source called the always right feeling. Even though the choices are hard and time is tight, the game is apparently designed so that almost anything you do helps you progress somehow.
Oh, that's interesting. So less paralysis by analysis.
Seems like it. Systems feed into each other, so even if you prioritize one thing, it often opens doors elsewhere. Every decision moves the game forward. You feel the pressure, but not necessarily the anxiety of making the wrong choice.
That's a smart design. It mirrors real life, doesn't it? You make choices with limited time and energy, but usually any effort moves you forward somehow, even if it's not the path you initially planned. It makes the stakes feel personal, like managing your own life, but without punishing you too hard for experimenting.
Yeah, it's a really fine balance between tension and reassurance, which leads perfectly into this insight from one of our sources, Frostalight writes. It's about how they played the game, and it connects directly to, well, you listening.
Okay, what was their experience?
So, this person admits they usually just blast through games. You know, impatient, main story focus, get to the end, power through.
Yeah, I know the type. Or I am the type sometimes.
Same. But with Metaphor, they tried something different. They treated it as a secondary game, playing in bite-sized chunks, not binging it.
Interesting. Why?
Well, if they got annoyed by the slow pace or the dungeon repetition we mentioned, they'd just stop, take a break, instead of forcing it. And this deliberate, slower pace actually made them appreciate the game more.
So stepping back helped them connect with it.
Exactly. They said it allowed them to enjoy it, how it feels like it was designed to be played. It made them slow down and smell the roses, basically. A deeper appreciation came from not rushing.
That's a really powerful point, especially today. We're just drowning in stuff to watch, read, play. There's this pressure to consume constantly, quickly.
Right, get through it, move on. Do we just skim headlines, or do we actually take the time for a proper deep dive like this, Let things sink in.
Metaphor seems to be almost teaching you how to engage with it. Maybe suggesting that rushing isn't always the best way to experience something complex.
It feels like it's raising the stakes for how you, the listener, engage with dense information. Maybe slowing down, being more deliberate, leads to richer understanding, better enjoyment.
It's almost like the game's design is the message. Slow down, engage thoughtfully, and you'll get more out of it. Whether it is the game or maybe anything complex.
That's a great connection. Speaking of complex layers, let's unpack the title itself. Metaphor. ReFantazio. That's not just random cool words, is it?
Not at all. It's packed with meaning. Metaphor comes from Greek metapheron, to transfer, to carry over. And meta implies change in place, order, nature.
So a metaphor isn't just A equals B, it's about transformation.
Exactly. It's seen as this transformative power, this process of becoming, as Plato might say, things changing, evolving.
And then in ReFantazio, reinvent, reconstruct, rearrange.
Reincarnate, maybe. All reinforcing that idea of transformation, new beginnings.
But fantasio, that's the really clever bit. It sounds like fantasy, obviously, but it's also literally the word for fantasy in
Esperanto.
Right back to Esperanto, the language created to bridge divides, to foster understanding between enemies.
So the whole title becomes this statement. Transformation, reinvention, bridging divides through a reimagined reality, a fantasy built on the principles of unity. It sets the stage perfectly.
And the main character, Will, and his tribe, the Elda, seem central to this. They're described as rare, almost mythical.
And actively demonized by the main religion, the Sanctists, called demonic because they can use archetypes.
So, connecting back to metaphrene, to transfer, there's this interesting theory that the Elda, including Will, might not even be from this universe.
Like they were transferred in to shake things up.
Yeah, transferred to this universe to instigate change, which would make them a fundamental threat to the Sanctus Church's control, wouldn't it? Their very existence challenges the power structure.
That definitely raises the stakes for Will. He's not just a hero, he's potentially an outsider, embodying the change the establishment fears most. It's a fight for existence itself.
Plus, Elda sounds a bit like elder, right? A term for leaders, often in religious contexts, which adds another layer to their clash with the Sanctus Church, a fight over spiritual and political authority.
It frames the whole conflict as a battle for the world's soul, questioning dogma, hierarchy, everything.
The philosophical depth just keeps going. Academia, that's a pretty direct nod.
Oh yeah, straight from Plato's Academy in ancient Athens.
Oh.
In the game, it's this big library where the character more guides Will towards knowledge and power.
Instantly makes you think of Plato's theory of forms. The idea that our world is just shadows.
Shadows of a higher perfect reality. True forms like justice, beauty, goodness, and real knowledge comes from understanding those forms, not just the imperfect physical world.
And the game reflects this. You mentioned a novel.
Yeah, the protagonist, Will, apparently wrote a novel depicting a utopian version of the real world. A mirror world where tribes cooperate, progress happens differently. It's like an imperfect reflection of that higher Platonic ideal.
Like the allegory of the cave. Prisoners mistaking shadows for reality.
Exactly. The philosopher breaks free, sees the real world, the sun, the form of the good. Will's quest feels very much like that journey out of the cave, seeking truth beyond illusions, often facing resistance.
It's a classic journey.
And what's cool is how it blends Western philosophy with hints of Eastern ideas, too. Like enlightenment leading to Buddhahood, or becoming a bodhisattva, choosing to stay and help others find enlightenment. It feels like a mix.
And the archetypes fit into this as heroes of the past.
Possibly other Eldas, yeah. They provide knowledge, power, linking Will to this whole journey of enlightenment and change. One Reddit user even brought up Carl Jung's archetypes from the collective unconscious, these universal patterns. Interesting parallel.
Even the visuals seem deliberate, like a Vitruvian man statue behind more.
Yeah, symbolizing the Renaissance, challenging old ideas, reevaluating humanity's place. And Will's shining right eye, the window to the soul linked to knowledge, wisdom, enlightenment. It's all reinforcing the same themes.
So it's unavoidable. This isn't just escapism. It's actively engaging you in philosophical questions about reality, truth, your own path. With the fate of this whole world on the line, the intellectual stakes are huge.
It demands you think along with it, grapple with the ideas it's presenting.
And the attention to detail goes right down to names, like Plateau, the cat-like guide. Early translations apparently got it wrong.
Yeah, they called him Plato, but the actual Japanese hiragana confirms it's Plateau, which is weirdly specific.
Why not Plato? With all the other references, what does plateau signify?
Well, a plateau is level high ground, or maybe more relevantly, a state of little change after activity, which is odd for a place where change begins, right? But maybe it refers to Moore, who is apparently stuck unchanged on this plateau until Will arrive.
Ah, so will is the force that ends the stasis. The Metaphorian again.
Exactly. He embodies the change that gets things moving off the plateau. And there's another subtle detail. The cat looks like a Bengal cat, a modern breed. Doesn't quite match other cats in the game.
A little nod to our world, maybe? Blurring the lines again?
Could be. These little things show just how meticulously crafted it is, always challenging your first assumptions.
Okay, let's talk about the setting. The United Kingdom of Euchronia. The name alone. Pretty direct reference.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Clearly meant to evoke the UK, Great Britain, and Northern Ireland. And like the real UK, Euchronia seems to have a complicated history with regions it absorbed or annexed.
And the monarchy's magic keeps things in check.
Yeah, it acts as a major deterrent to uprisings. The game apparently references real-world parallels. Ireland's division, the Troubles, Scottish independence movements, Welsh autonomy. It grounds the fantasy politics in familiar tensions.
So the conflicts feel more real, more resonant because they echo our own history. That definitely raises the stakes of navigating that world. But the name Euchronia itself, beyond the UK link, does it mean something?
It does. And it's clever. While the full name points to the UK, Euchronia itself connects to Utopia. Utopia means no place. Euchronia can relate to no time.
No time, like alternate history.
Exactly. It's often used in stories about alternate histories or parallel dimensions. It subtly suggests this isn't just fantasy, but maybe a different possibility, a reality that exists outside our timeline. It plays with that U prefix, sometimes meaning good, but sometimes no or not. Very slippery.
Linguistic tricks everywhere. And then there's more, the guide character, another historical callback.
A huge one. Almost certainly refers to Sir Thomas More, Lord Chancellor under Henry VIII. Famous humanist, wrote Utopia.
Right, the guy who opposed Henry's break with the Catholic Church and got, well, executed for it.
Precisely. And the game's More gets arrested by the king too. It mirrors history, foreshadowing his influence and perhaps his fate.
And Euchronia itself draws from Thomas More's book Utopia.
Yeah, More's book described this ideal island with no private property, needs-based distribution, no money, elected officials.
Yeah.
Super radical for the 1500s. A critique of Europe at the time.
And the game reflects these ideals. Democratic principles forced by magic, characters wanting a classless society.
Exactly. The driving desire seems to be creating a utopia based on merit and cooperation, overcoming those tribal divisions. But there's a catch.
Always a catch.
Well, there's always been debate about whether Thomas More's Utopia was serious or satire. The narrator in the book is named Hythlode, which means speaker of nonsense.
Ah, okay.
So while the game seems to take the utopian ideal seriously at first, characters within the game start questioning it, like, does equality mean equal opportunity? Is a democratic monarchy even possible, or is it just nonsense? It introduces that same ambiguity.
So it's not just presenting an ideal, it's exploring the difficulty and maybe the contradictions of achieving it, using history not just for flavor, but to ask hard questions about society.
Exactly. It elevates the whole thing. It forces you to think about what your utopia would look like and how messy getting there might be. The intellectual stakes keep climbing.
Which brings us back to Hoshino's big question, why fantasy? He said he wanted to offer a hypothesis for why the genre even exists.
Yeah, his idea is pretty profound. He thinks we explore fantasy because reality doesn't need to be our reality, and that our reality doesn't need to remain the reality that it is. Fantasy expands our horizons, shows us other possibilities.
Okay, that makes sense. Escapism, but with a purpose.
But then he adds that twist.
The big one. He asked, what if the fantasy world that we create views our world? What if our real world is, in reality, their fantasy?
That flips everything. And metaphor runs with this, with the humans being monsters.
Exactly. The monstrous humans are hinted to be from a world before. A world destroyed by magla, which sounds like chaotic magic, maybe technology, unleashed by wars. Our world, our history of conflict, is potentially their nightmare past.
Wow. So our reality is their cautionary tale, their dystopia. It's a stunning reversal. It makes you reconsider what we accept as normal, doesn't it? How might our world look from the outside? What are the demonic powers, the conflicts, the technologies, the ideologies that we wield, maybe without even realizing it? It's a serious challenge to self-reflection.
It makes the stakes incredibly personal.
Luckily.
The game isn't just about Euchronia anymore. It's holding up a mirror to us.
And Hoshino leaned into this. He said personal anxieties are a core theme. Characters find strength by facing fears, connecting with others. He even suggested the tribe system in the game mirrors how different groups in our world cope with anxiety, leading to political clashes.
So the fantasy politics reflect real-world psychology and division.
Right. He wanted the game to encourage people to analyze their own lives. Find hope not in guarantees, but in progressing towards something undefined and undetermined. It's about agency in an uncertain world.
So it's not just escapism, it's engagement. Using fantasy to understand our own anxieties, our own hopes, our own power to shape the future.
Precisely. It makes a journey deeply meaningful on a personal level.
So we've really unpacked a lot here. Metaphor. ReFantazio seems to weave together gameplay, philosophy, history, even linguistics like Esperanto.
Yeah, from Plato to Thomas More, from the UK's history to deep questions about reality. It's incredibly ambitious.
It consistently seems to challenge perceptions, reward close attention, and invite you to look deeper.
It really feels like a game using fantasy not just to escape our world, but to understand it better, to question what's real, the power of our choices, individually and together.
Which brings us back to that final provocative thought from Hoshino. What if fantasy is just another lens for looking at and maybe critiquing our own reality?
Yeah.
If our world, with all its problems, is their monstrous past, what does that tell us about the stories we believe, the systems we accept, the demonic powers we might just take for granted?
It's a heavy question.
And maybe the most important one, what kind of metaphor is your life creating? For the world now, and maybe for those who look back later. Definitely something to chew on long after the game is over.